It's late at night and my wife has gone to bed, so I can't show you or let you hear it. But at this point, hopefully I'll have built up some trust on these things. When I was testing all the functions of the app, the only thing that really sounded bad was if I turned on the bright switch. It wasn't just a hiss or too bright. A buzz came through the app as soon as that is on. And this is a silver mica. And if it's anything like the silver mica that I see elsewhere in the circuit, there's only 2 or 3 others. It's the generic ones that just say SM as opposed to the ones that say CDM. Or if you want to spend crazy money, the ones which are branded as Sozos these days. But anyway, these generic SM labeled silver micas often fail in such a way as to cause a buzz. So I'm going to remove it, see what value it is, and replace it with a better cap and see if the buzz is gone. I imagine that it will be. It's a simple thing to do. Just because of the nature of where I've got to put my hands and how I have to see it, I can't film myself doing this. Sorry. I'm just going to disconnect this wire, remove this cap, remove the solder, put a new cap in place, reconnect this wire, and see if the buzz is gone. Well, I was correct, the generic. So I've got a really nice quality 1000-volt ceramic to replace it. If you wonder why the leads are bent differently, it's so that the new one will have its value visible when it's in circuit. The SM was backwards. Let me show you the other thing I did. I got the old solder off the 2 connections so I can get it nice and clean. So let me put the new cap in place. All right, there we go. 250 picofarad, 1000 volt, high quality ceramic disc, should not ever leak. If you did not know that it originally had a silver mica, you'd think that was factory, so to speak. I have a feeling this is built at a shop much like my own, so not really a factory, but you know, we do get Oompa Loompas. That's nice. Like I said, it's too late at night for me to do this at any volume where you can hear it, but I just confirmed that the buzz is gone. So you'll get to hear the real playing video, which I'll do tomorrow morning, and through the magic of editing, you'll hear it now. Okay, I think aside from doing some labels to indicate the fuses that I put in here, it's just about done. Let's take this thing for a test drive. So I've got the master at noon. Got in full power mode right now with an 8 ohm cab on the 8 ohm output tap. Presence at noon. And we'll talk about what the controls do. We're going to start with just the volume. I guess it's about 3. And we're talking about these filters first, because these filters really are going to affect everything else that you can do with the tone stack. So I believe there's 7 position switches. There's high and there's low. So let's start with the low. So that's really going to influence how you use the bass and mids. Let's set this to one of the more neutral sounding ones right now. Let's see, let's do 2 clicks down from fullest lows. Versus now let's look at the highs. So all the way left. I'll just do a G chord. So again, let's back off from the extreme there. How's 2 clicks? Personally, I find most of the settings, the early ones, just be way too bright. And then the last one be too dark, and then very quickly gets into a range of pretty nice stuff. So let's just stay there, because I cannot show you every possible permutation of this. 7 positions here, 7 positions here, all the possible combinations of treble, middle, bass. It gets to be too much. This amp in stock form wants to be bright. Let's listen to the range of the bass pot. That's really nice. The mids, let's do another G chord. So let's keep that right about, what is that? 10 o'clock. And sweep the treble the same way. That's a pretty balanced sound, very full. But it has the highs without the highs getting too crazy. Now let's try these 3 position switches. So we have bright, and as you'll have seen already before, the bright also introduced a buzz. Doesn't buzz anymore, but my God, that's bright. And let's see, let me turn the high filter one down. So there's not really a spot on the high filter where that bright becomes less painful. Let's try it with the treble down. That's just an awful lot of brightness. I would change the value of that cap if I were making this amp. That's just over the top. You don't want to go that huge a difference. Just adding a little bit of air and sparkle. That's too much. Let's leave that off. All right, let's see what the deep switch does. I bet you can guess. It's kind of replicating what the low filter does. Just shaves off the lowest stuff. For some good guitars, that could be nice. We're going to keep the deep on, and then there's the famous rock jazz switch in a Dumble. It's been in rock so far. There's jazz. And that's definitely less bright. Let's see if the bright cap's useful in that setting. Not in my opinion. 250 picofarad is too bright. I imagine a lot of Dumble users either didn't use that switch, or the volume was set so high that that bright cap did less. I may demonstrate that later. But at least with the volume down about 9:30, 10 o'clock, that bright switch is just crazy. That's twice as bright. Well, it's hard to say. It's twice the value of the bright cap in a Fender Twin. but the pot is not the same value, so let's just ignore that. A lot of Dumbles, in my experience, and a lot of Dumble clones as a result, have crazy bright switch options. I'm not going to argue about Howard Alexander Dumble and his bright switches. I would refer you to the Henry Kaiser and Alexander Dumble jam video that's out there. Bright and thin was one of the things he liked, apparently. Anyway, so the jazz thing. It's a little bit more of a scooped upper mid thing. It changes the interaction of the treble and bass and mids pots. Just another tonal color to have. Now it's got a presence control. If you go all the way clockwise, it clicks out. No presence. Turn it on, darker. There's not a huge difference between having it at the less extreme settings and turning it off. But it does give you a little more oomph in the output. Now the reverb says send and return. On other amps, what is send here might be called dwell. This affects the note length, the decay length of the tank to an extent, and this is how much is audible. So if I turn the send all the way up, let's get the return up a bit to get wetter. Turn the send down. It's not a matter of making that be a short tank versus a long tank as far as the decay. Just they kind of work together. I tend, oops, wrong button. I tend to like the send kind of high and the return kind of low, and that's going to depend on the tank. This amp has got an MOD tank. And with both the MOD tank it has and the Mojo Tone tank that I tested it with first, it's not the brightest of reverb circuits. That's the tank. I hooked up an old Fender Accutronics, an Accutronics from a Fender from about 1970, and there was a lot more high-end clarity and lushness, but that particular tank has got a defective spring, so it wasn't useful for this. But I'd say given the niceness of everything else about this amp, it would be worthwhile tracking down an old Gibbs or Accutronics for this. All right, let's do a little bit of playing at this setting, and then we're going to try some impedance and half power stuff. This thing is a beast, and it's kind of scary to play. Let me play around with some output transformer stuff. So we've got the 8-ohm cab hooked up to the 8-ohm output tap, and Dumble often mismatched that. We're going to try running the 8-ohm cab with a 4-ohm tap and see if we hear a difference. So I put it in standby before I do that switch. All right, nothing else changed. Feels a little bit spongier to me. Sounds really good both ways. Just has a little bit less immediacy to it. Might want to turn the bass up just a little bit. So that's one thing to play around with if you have one of these. The output transformer in this thing is rugged. It should handle a mismatch like that just fine. You're going to lose a little bit of output power, but this thing has got wattage to spare. I mean, I've got the master at half for all this. But I'm going to go back to 8-ohm cab at 8-ohm tap, and then we're going to try the half power thing. All right, so here we are back with 8 ohms and 8 ohms at full power, though the master is at noon. Let's do the half power switch. What this does is it partially turns off 2 of the output tubes. They're still drawing some current, just not as much as their neighbors. And honestly, there's not a huge volume difference. There is a feel difference, and it gets a little bit rounder sounding. And I think that's because of 2 things. Number one, the bias drops, in this case, from about 55% idle to about 37% idle when I go to the half power mode. Second of all, since only one pair of the 6L6s are running, and they have the same load in full power as they do in half power, running at 8 ohms at half power into an 8-ohm load is the same thing as running at full power with the 8-ohm load on the 4-ohm tap of the output transformer. It's that same spongy trick. If you wanted to have the sound at 8 ohms at half power more similar to how it was at full power, you'd probably want to go up to the 16-ohm tap with an 8-ohm cab at half power. Let's hear that. All right, so this is half power, 16-ohm tap, 8-ohm load. And full power, 8-ohm, 8-ohm. You still get a little more of an attack with all 4 output tubes working. You're not getting a huge volume difference, you're just getting a feel difference. These are things to play around with if you have these. Now let's turn the gain up a little bit and the master down so we don't blast everyone in the neighborhood. So we're going to go up to about 2 o'clock on the preamp. Turn the master down. I'll make sure I'm not clipping the mic pre. No, we're good. So it's really not that driven sounding, is it? But if you really dig in, it's got that girth to it. And if the master were full, it would sound even bigger, but I do have neighbors and I have to protect my own hearing. I saw Stevie Ray play in the summer of '89 at an outdoor festival, and his stage rig was louder than the entire PA. I mean, the guitar volume coming off his stage was louder than the whole 30,000 watt PA that had the vocals and drums and bass and organ and stuff through it. And he wasn't even using one of these that day. He had like 6 Fender clean amps and 3 Marshall dirty amps, and who knows what ungodly combinations thereof. It was really loud. If I go all the way up, let's see if I can do this without clipping the Prius. And that was with the master at 10 o'clock. You know, that's ungodly loud. If you're trying to practice this stuff before you play at stage volume, it's just a beast of an amp. I'm sure that if I were to turn the master up some more, we'd be getting a little bit more compression and a little bit more grit from the output. But seriously, I would need to be in a big old outdoor venue, 500 seats or more to do that. And I don't think anyone's signing up to hear me play that kind of stuff just right now. This is a very intimidating amp to play, you know. Every mistake is audible. If you're out of practice, you'll be out of, every little clam will be really loud. Like those. I shouldn't be practicing in front of you guys, but I mean, seriously. I used to be able to play that in my sleep. I'm so rusty. But remember in high school that bathroom mirror with the fluorescent lights over it? And in that mirror, you could see every zit you ever had, every zit you were going to have. It was all right there on your face all the time underneath that fluorescent light in that damn bathroom mirror at high school. To a degree, this amp is like that. There's nowhere to hide. Everything you play, for good or bad, comes out. And I'm pretty sure that if I had this and practiced to it all the time, my playing would improve a lot. It would have to, because after 6 weeks of playing through this, and it wasn't getting better, either I or the amp would have to go.